If you need technical...
So anyway, welcome. This is the orientation for those of you that have the regional leadership user role in RC View DAT Dispatch. This is part of the readiness initiative as your region goes through the infrastructure lane project. So this is our agenda for the evening. We'll do some really brief introductions, cover some of our objectives for the day, and then we will talk through, give a brief overview of RC View, talk a little bit about the RC View DAT Dispatch and its current and future state, walk through the DAT app. We'll give you a brief overview of what that looks like, talk a little bit about your role as regional leadership, what functions you will be doing in RC View DAT Dispatch. We'll talk about the project timeline. It's 14 weeks, and we'll point out some key dates that are important for you. We'll point you out to some important resources, talk about next steps, and then have plenty of time for questions at the end, though, again, feel free to bring those up as we go along the call here today. So quick introductions. I think most of you know who we are, but for those of you who don't, my name is Claire Von Inns. I'm joined today by my colleague Anna Caldwell. We represent what is called the RC View Application Deployment Team. We're also joined today by our RC View training lead, Andy Evans. If you've attended any of the trainings we've hosted over the last 2 weeks, Andy was your instructor. If you've got yourself signed up for the regional leadership trainings next week, Andy will also be your trainer for those, so you will be in good hands. A couple of other folks whose names you might be familiar with but aren't able to make this call today, Catherine Galifianakis, Alicia Guajardo, and Alex Rose represent the DAT program team. So just so you know, these are our implementation leads. They are likely the people that invited you to this call, and they're kind of the spearheads for your region to helping you all adapt RC View DAT Dispatch. So if you're not familiar with who your implementation lead is, I'll give you just a moment to take a look at this list and find their name and encourage you to jot it down. They're going to be your primary point of contact if you have any questions about any upcoming trainings or if you have any questions about the deployment process itself. So our objectives for today are to orient you to the RC View DAT Dispatch project, to provide a basic understanding of RC View, provide you an overview of how RC View DAT Dispatch is used today and what it will look like at the end of the 14-week timeline, describe your system role as regional leadership, to introduce you to those available resources, and of course to ensure that you feel confident to use the system as a user with the regional leadership role. So a quick overview of this project. So your region is currently part of the infrastructure lane within the larger context of the Readiness Initiative, and each region is assigned to a starting lane in the Readiness Initiative. So you are currently in the infrastructure lane. This project is on a 14-week timeline, so we're currently in week 4 of that timeline, so moving along pretty quickly. And what we're doing as part of this implementation is introducing DAT responder schedules, DAT activation using RC View, as well as the DAT app. Now, some of our regions weren't already using RC View, so those that are brand new to RC View DAT Dispatch are also getting duty officer schedules, and they'll be adapting that function as well as part of this rollout. And then our goal at the end of this project is that all of our events, our DAT events, are getting captured in RC View. So we wanted to also provide a brief overview of what RC View is. We recognize that some folks have different levels of understanding, so apologize if you're a super user of RC View. Some of this information won't be very new or exciting to you, but for the folks that are new, we wanted to make sure we're all on the same page. So RC View is our disaster event management system. It allows the Red Cross and our partners to share visual situational awareness and draw on near real-time data to better manage disaster operations. RC View is the overarching platform in which two systems are housed. So the first system is our Noggin system, which is where the DAT Dispatch application lives. The second system is our Esri system, which houses our RC Collect and mapping applications, as well as several other new applications that are currently under development. For the purposes of this project, we are going to be working in that DAT Dispatch application. In order to be able to log into RC View, a couple of qualifications must be met. First, someone must have an active Volunteer Connection account. In other words, they're able to sign into Volunteer Connection. If they have an active account, they must also have an active DCS position assigned to their profile in Volunteer Connection. Typically, that assignment of a disaster cycle services position must be done by someone working in volunteer services. Once those two qualifications are met, you'll be able to log in. You log in RC View by going to rcview.redcross.org and entering your login information. And that login information is going to be the same email and password as you use when logging into Volunteer Connection. The first time that you log in to RC View, you're going to have a general user access. And what that means is you'll have a heat map for DAT Dispatch. So you'll be able to log in, but you won't actually be able to do anything in the application. As part of this implementation project, your implementation leads should be working to get you the appropriate access level. So if you need that regional leadership access and you don't have it yet, I'd encourage you to work with your implementation leads and they'll be able to get your access updated. If you're having issues logging into RC View, I just wanted to point out that there are several resources available. So first, there's the RC View access page on the Exchange. There's also an RC View troubleshooting guide. And if after reviewing both of those documents, you're still having issues logging into RC View, you can always reach out to the IT customer portal. A little bit more about RC View DAT Dispatch. So for the majority of regions going through this implementation, you currently are using RC View DAT Dispatch to create and manage duty officer schedules, send out automatic or manual notifications to your duty officers, as well as using RC View for call and event logging and tracking. The two new functions that you're getting as part of this implementation is the ability to create and manage DAT responder schedules, as well as the ability to monitor DAT responses. Once the region has fully implemented RC View DAT Dispatch, this is that ideal workflow process. So first, that fire department or whomever will call the Red Cross, letting them know that there is an event that requires their attention. That event will get entered into RC View DAT Dispatch, and that event is automatically associated with a duty officer schedule based on geography. Then the duty officers are notified based on their notification preferences and schedule type. The duty officer would then open RC View to view the event and decide if Red Cross response is required. If they decide that Red Cross response is required, the event automatically associates with a DAT responder schedule based on their geography. The DAT responders are then notified based on their notification preferences and their schedule type. So box 6 and 7, those represent the new functions that all regions are getting as part of this rollout. And we have currently just some events are getting entered in RC View, but again, our goal is that RC View becomes our system of record for all DAT events. So you've probably heard me mention the DAT app. This is also part of the implementation that regions are getting. So DAT responders are going to be able to use the DAT app in many different ways. DAT members can sign up for shifts using the app. They can accept assignments. They can get information about their assignments and the team that they are responding with. They can see details of responders, of other responses in their area. They can take notes, and they can record key statuses, such as when they are on or off scene. The DAT app is a mobile application. It's free to download and is currently available on both Apple and Android and can be accessed via a web browser. And if you will humor me for just a second, I would like to share with you a presentation that we've created for DAT responders that are going to be using the app. I just want to walk you all through that presentation really quickly so you can get an idea of what the app looks like and how responders will be using it. So just give me a moment while that uploads. While that's happening, I'll pause and see if there are any questions on anything that I've mentioned so far.
Claire, I don't see anything pending in chat.
All right, thanks, Andy. I didn't see anything either. I'm not hearing anything on the phone. We can dive right in here and talk a little bit about the DAT app. So this presentation that you're seeing now is actually something that we presented during the DAT coordinator orientation, assuming that most of those folks are the ones that are going to be training their responders on how to use the DAT app. We will also send out this PowerPoint after this orientation, so it's in your hands as well. And there's also more detailed documentation on using the app available on the Exchange. So the first several bit of slides here, I'm just going to zoom through because they're all slides that we just talked through. We wanted to include them in here to make sure that the responders were receiving the same overview and had the same context as everybody else. So I'll start here. We walk them through how to get the app. Like I said, it's currently available. They have to type out Disaster Action Team in their search bar on the App Store in order to locate the app. Once they have the app, they'll be able to log in. Again, they need to have those two qualifications. The first being they have an active volunteer connection account. The second being that they have a DCS position assigned to their profile and volunteer connection. And then they'll also be able to log into the app here. They will also be using the same login information as they used when logging into volunteer connection. They have the option to receive push notifications from the app. So if they are signed up on a schedule and an event occurs, if they want the app to notify them that there is an event in their area, they have the ability to allow those push notifications to come through from the app. But there are several other ways that somebody could receive notifications of an event. So one of the first things that we're asking responders to do is enter their time zone. This is important because it has to match the time zone in which their DAT responder schedule is associated to. I just include a little bit of details on how to set that up. And then we walk them through how to set their notification preferences. So they have the ability to decide if they would like to be contacted via a phone number, email, or text message. And the next few slides just walk them through how they would set up those notification preferences by using the app. So the next feature I want to highlight for the DAT app is that DAT members are able to register for shifts. They'll be able to register for shifts if they are listed on a DAT schedule and if that shift needs additional responders. So the next couple of slides walk them through how they would sign up for a shift by using their application. So they would tap on an event that they want to, or a shift listing that they would like to sign up for. They would tap Sign Me Up. And then they would be registered for the shift. Another feature the DAT app has is responders are able to see all the different shifts that they are currently signed up for by going to the My Schedule feature, opening up a particular day that they want to see the shift listed in, and the app displays all their current shift listings. If a responder decides they no longer are able to respond during a particular shift time, they are able to remove themselves from a shift by tapping that Remove Me button at the bottom of the shift details page. We then include information about how they would receive and respond to automated system notifications. Individuals can still be contacted manually. This information is just for those who have decided to use automatic schedules and automatic notifications. So again, they can receive a phone call, and then there will be a message detailing how they respond to that phone call. They could receive the notification through SMS text. They could receive the notification through email. They could also receive the notification through their push notifications on the app. And this just walks through how they would accept the assignment on the app. So they have the opportunity to accept the assignment. In other words, they are going to respond or reject because they're not able to respond at that time. The next portion of the slides walks through how they would be able to use the app during a DAT response. So responders are able to go into their event summary, and if they're responding to an event and they are assigned to an event, they could route a map to the event location directly from their app. The DAT app will open up whatever mapping application their phone or device currently has. They can report their responder status, which is when they are on or off scene. They can view other responders' information that are assigned and responding with them. And they can also see their contact information. So if you were a DAT trainee and you wanted to reach out to your DAT leader, you'd be able to tap that DAT leader and see their contact information and their cell phone, whatever they have listed, and contact them directly. Responders also have the option of communicating with each other in the notes feature. So if they wanted to add a note for the group to see, they would add a new note. They could add a picture if they so desired and then tap done, and then everyone would be able to see that note. That's just a really quick overview of the DAT app. I know I ran through that pretty quickly, but if you have any questions, again, you will get this PowerPoint, and there are additional materials on the Exchange walking in detail about how to use the app. Now, we know that some responders don't have smartphones or are often in areas of poor connectivity, so we wanted to make you aware that there are alternatives to using the DAT app. So if they don't have the mobile application, they are able to use a web browser version of the application in order to set their notification preferences, as well as sign up for shifts. They are able to receive event notifications through SMS text, voice, or email. And they're also able to report when they are on or off scene using SMS text or voice. A little bit more about alternatives. So if a DAT responder is not comfortable signing themselves up either on the app or on the web browser version, their DAT coordinators do have the ability to sign their responders up for shifts on their behalf. And of course, duty officers are still able to call responders directly to notify them if there is an event that they need to respond to and for ongoing communications during the event. So I think at this point I'll pause one more time for questions, and I will also pass the microphone over to Anna, who's going to take it from here.
Thanks, Claire. Are there any questions before we continue?
I don't see any questions in the chat, so you're clear there.
All right, great. Well, as Claire said, thank you again for joining us this afternoon. I see some familiar names out there, so I will apologize. I think some of you may have heard some of this material previously, the background information that Claire just went over. We've kind of elected to repeat certain material in each one of the presentations because we are finding that in some instances we've got folks that are attending all the training, and in other places they're attending just that for their role. So So forgive us the repeat if this is stuff that you've heard before. So what we're going to talk about next are the activities that you can do specifically with the regional leadership role, and these are the things that Andy then will be covering in detail in the system next week during that training. So some of you likely already have the regional leadership role and are familiar with some of these activities, so you're already probably creating and managing duty officer schedules. You can also now, though, you're going to be able to establish the regional event and event status update notifications. I believe that was something in the past that you had to reach out to an administrator to do. You'll be able to create non-volunteer connection contact records. You're probably already doing that today for DAT phones. If needed, you can view another user's emergency contact information. You can set another user's notification preference. And then you're also now going to be able to create and manage vehicle records. So if desired, you can create records in the system for the vehicles that you manage within your region, and then the duty officer is going to be able to assign those to events if desired. Since permissions are also inherent in the system, if you have the regional leadership role, then you're also able to perform the subordinate activities of a duty officer or DAT coordinator. So creating and managing duty officer schedules, as I said, I imagine a number of you are doing this today. There's a few steps involved in that. The first is establishing the parameters, so knowing what geography it's going to cover, naming it, figuring out who can edit it. Always very important to have at least a couple of people who are eligible to edit any schedule, so you've got some redundancy there. Making that decision about whether it's going to be manual or automatic, and I recognize, I think a lot of people have said that they are using the manual schedules at this time. Determining what your shift lengths are going to be, and then of course determining what recurring shifts you might be using. Then you have to associate your staff and your assets, so making sure that you've rostered all of the people that are going to be on those schedules, and then any shared phones that you also want to be notified as part of that. And then the last step, of course, assigning people to shifts, and then maintaining that schedule as you go forward, adding people, removing people, so on and so forth. Just have an image here of what that listing looks like in the system of the notification flow, if you will, from duty officer down to DDE. I'm happy to say I think it's been quite a long time since we've had a DDE get a phone call automatically from the system, but freely admit that when we first went live about 1.5 years ago, that did happen. But it's really important to pay attention to that structure, especially for automatic schedules, because certainly if somebody is manually calling down, they're going to go, in the sequence that they see. The system, on the other hand, is going to go by position type. So if you have multiple people listed as duty officers, they're all going to get notified at the same time, and it's going to continue to escalate from there. I think most of the time when we have folks that are having challenges with their automatic schedules, it's that distinction between the visual order that you see, here on the screen, and then the way that the system actually is calling out by the associated position type. So establishing your regional event and event status notifications, this can be really helpful to let other folks know in the region what's going on, people who might not necessarily be directly impacted or not going out on the response, but they need to know what's going on. So that could be public affairs, regional chapter executives. So you'll be able to create 2 different types of regional notifications that are available. So the first one is going to be associated with a new event that's not associated with a DRO. And the notification can go out via email and text message letting folks know what's going on. And there's an additional note in here, so if the event is marked not for immediate action, then the notification is going to follow that same pattern. So the notification would not be gone out until the next morning. And then they can also get event status change notifications. It happens in real time. It would be only by email, but if the status changes to assigned, so when the needed number of DAT members have indicated, they'll respond. And then when you have at least one DAT member on scene, and then when all DAT members are off scene, they'll get notifications as well. So So creating those non-volunteer connection contacts, you've probably, if you have that shared DAT phones and you're already using the system, you've probably done that. So in some regions, we've noticed that they've actually created those non-volunteer connection contacts for the people that they have rostered on their DAT schedules. And if it's a manual schedule, perfectly fine, you can do that, right? Because you've got their contact information, somebody's visually going in and saying, okay, this is the person I want to call. That person's not there, I'm going to go down to the next person. However, if those people now need to be duty officers in the system, right, you're going to want them to actually be able to now go into the system, indicate that we're going to respond, go in and activate a team. You're going to need to make sure that you send their information over to the RC View mailbox so that we can make sure that they also get permissioned in the system with the appropriate permission. So viewing another user's contact and emergency contact information, pretty straightforward. It's something that's restricted to the regional leadership role and above. You know, some concerns about protecting the personally identifiable information of our volunteers, but certainly if needed, you have the ability to go in and see that information, and especially that emergency contact information if needed. And then setting another user's notification preferences. I know we did a lot of this, saw a lot of regions doing this for their duty officers when we first went live. Two critical things to set up for any new user. One is the time zone, so making sure that they're in the same time zone as the schedules that they're going to be working, and that also ensures that the timestamp records, you know, around events and call creation are displaying the way we want them to. And then the other is setting the notification preferences. So what phone am I going to get contacted on? Am I going to get email? Am I going to get SMS, texts, and where? Understanding, of course, that their contact information is actually coming to us from Volunteer Connection. So if they've got a phone number in there that's wrong, they need to go back into Volunteer Connection and update that phone number so it's updated in RC View. Those with regional leadership can go in and set the notification preferences on behalf of other people, but they cannot set the time zones for other people. So it's really important to have your team members go in and do that. And the absolute easiest way to do that is the DAT app. Really simple. Just download the app, and it's just a couple of clicks, and they can go in and set up both their time zone preferences or the time zone, and then their notification preferences. So I'd really encourage you to direct your folks to do it that way. And of course, you know, if downloading the app is an issue, maybe they don't have a smartphone, they can always go into that web browser version of the DAT app and set it up that way as well. And then this last bit is the creation and management of the vehicle records. It's not a required activity, I think, with this pilot. But if you'd like to, you can go in and you can create your vehicle records. You're going to be entering the location, their stationary fixed location, so wherever it is that they're normally kept when not responding. And then the duty officer, if desired, can go ahead and assign the vehicle to an event. If a vehicle is assigned to an event, then it's going to be essentially considered not eligible for assignment to another event until that event status either becomes off scene or canceled. So it's not tracking the vehicle's movement in any way, but it is tracking that the vehicle is being used on an event, and then is when it's freed up to go to another one. So before I continue, any questions about the regional leadership functionality? And again, as regional leadership, certainly any of the training or the reference materials that pertain to a duty officer or a DAT coordinator, those functions are also available to you, and that would certainly be relevant. The activities in the timeline, so we are in week 4, so we're having the regional leadership orientations this week. Next week, we'll be doing the regional leadership role training. We do expect that the DAT coordinators will be able to create their schedules sometime, probably starting next week. Originally, it was in the schedule for 3/12, but we think that we're a little bit ahead of schedule with getting that geography loaded into the system, and so we'll certainly be letting the implementation leads know when that's ready to go. But certainly at any time, if there are changes that you need to make to your existing duty officer schedules, or if there are new schedules that you need to create for those that haven't been using the system, that work can begin at any time. If you're not familiar with that, you probably want to go through the training next week first, but there's nothing systematically preventing the creation of those schedules in the system. And then the remaining dates are from our existing schedule, which is there's a possibility some regions may go live as early as sometime in early April, and then certainly all regions, the goal is to have all regions live by the end of April so that we can then transition you into a steady state sometime in early May. All right, I'm going to pause and see if there are any questions and then turn it back over to Clara to take a look at the resources.
Thanks, Ann. I don't see any questions in the chat yet. Anyone has any questions that they'd like to address on the phone? Slide through. All right, I'm going to keep going then. So there are, of course, materials available on the Exchange in the DAT Dispatch Toolkit. The two most important for your role in regional leadership are those called Creating and Managing Duty Officer Schedules, and then that Performing Regional Leadership Tasks document. And in just a moment, I will navigate us out to the Exchange to show you where you can find those. We're using EDGE in order for all of our training courses, so you'll need to register for those regional leadership classes through EDGE. There's a video available that's an overview of the DAT Dispatch workflow process. In the follow-up email, we'll send you a link to that. It's just a quick 7-minute video, but it gives a really great overview. So we'd encourage you to not only watch that video, but share it with your responders and volunteers in your area. Again, your implementation leads are going to be your primary point of contact with any questions about this deployment process or upcoming trainings. And then there are other system-based role trainings that are happening if you're interested. The DAT coordinator training already happened, but it is available on demand. And we also have the duty officer trainings that we're conducting this week. Those will also be available via video recording after they're done. So if you give me just a moment here, I'm going to share my desktop. And I'm going to pop over to the Exchange just to show you how you'd navigate. So I'm going to search for RC View. I'm going to go to the DAT Dispatch Toolkit. And here's where all of your training tools and job tools are going to be found. So again, that first one that's most relevant for you is going to be that Creating and Managing Duty Officer Schedules document. Another one that's going to be helpful is downloading a regional DAT user access list. And what this job tool shows you is how, if you're interested in knowing who in your region currently has access to RC View DAT Dispatch, this is going to be able to pull a report from RC View DAT Dispatch with that list of users and what their role type is. So whether they have a duty officer access, regional leadership access, or just a general user access. Then finally, that third document is going to be that Performing Regional Leadership Tasks. All right, so those are all the currently available resources, and again, we will make sure we send all of those out to you in an email so they're easily accessible. A little bit more information about the upcoming training. Again, you do have to register through EDGE. The name of the training is RC View DAT Dispatch, Creating and Managing Duty Officer Schedules, plus other regional leadership tasks. Those are all next week. So we have one late Tuesday evening, one late Wednesday afternoon, and then a third one Thursday morning. We also have office hours that occur every Monday and Thursday. And those office hours are meant to serve as call-in opportunities for any questions that you or anyone that's going through this pilot has about the deployment process. So after you complete your trainings and you're working in the system and you come across the question, that'd be a great time to call in. Or if you just have a question about the deployment process in general, we're happy to take any questions at that time. So again, they're every Monday from 7 to 9 Eastern Time and Thursday 12 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And also in our follow-up email, we'll be sure to provide these dates and times as well as the call-in information. Your implementation leads also have these on their calendars, so they should be able to forward those invitations to you if you're interested. So looking forward, what you should be doing as part of this implementation, again, we encourage you to sign up and attend the trainings on the week of March 5th to learn how to perform the functions in the system. Work with your implementation leads and DAT coordinators to make sure you understand what types of schedules will be used for each DAT response territory and why that's happening. What impacts access to technology you need to consider, as well as determine if your region needs to build any additional duty officer schedules or update their current duty officer schedules. Many regions going through this implementation are keeping the same duty officer schedule structure, but we do have a few that are opting to change theirs just slightly. In addition, we'd encourage you to familiarize yourself with the DAT Dispatch toolkit that I just pointed out to you on the exchange, as well as those reference materials. And if you're someone that's brand new to RC View DAT Dispatch, we'd encourage you to test your access to RC View. And if you have any issues logging in, I encourage you to reach out to your implementation leads. And if you're also new, again, encourage you to work with your implementation leads and your RDO to learn how your region is currently using RC View DAT Dispatch. And that rounds out the content that we have for today. I don't see any questions in chat, so I'll pause one more time to see if there are any other questions that have came up on the phone as we walk through all of the presentation. All right, hearing none. Alex, Andy, or Anna, do you have any final thoughts for us today?
I agree. It's a quiet group. I could say a bad joke and no one would groan.
I didn't hear anything.
No, thanks very much for your time, and certainly if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out. Probably the easiest way is through the RTD mailbox.
All right, thanks everyone so much for joining. We look forward to seeing you on the trainings next week, and have a great rest of your evening. Take care. Bye.
Great. Thank you.
Everybody. Bye now.
Bye-bye now.